Hi, guys. Good morning.
Good morning. It's Tuesday, October 13th.
Hope you enjoyed your 3-day weekend.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually, we're taping this on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
We're at school.
Yeah.
While you guys get the day off, so congratulations. Lucky you guys. And let's start out the day right after a 3-day weekend. It's always hard. It is, I think those are the
hard to get back into the groove.
Yes. So let's breathe and smile. That way we start off on the right foot and on a positive note. And let's breathe in and out. Breathe in and out. Breathe in one more time and out. Smiling. It's Tuesday. We have some
nice weather coming.
Yes, cool fronts coming. Mm-hmm. It's going to feel like fall. It's already starting to look like fall with all the orange on the porches. It's
pumpkin patch.
Yes, the pumpkin patch down on Eagle Drive.
Exciting.
Yes, it is. Yes. It's exciting. So today, you guys will be reading chapter 23 in Fever. We're getting close to the end.
The goal is to finish this week. So that's on Remote's agenda, is to finish the final chapters in the epilogue by Friday. So keep reading. Yes. If you just want to truck on through reading, this Friday we're going to be done with the book, and you're going to be taking a test on Friday.
Please make sure you keep up with your reading log. Mm-hmm. Every time you read a chapter, you must write down a surprise. It should start with "I'm surprised," tell your surprise, end with a period, and then have a question. You should be questioning what you're reading. Anything that you read, you should have questions about when you're finished. That's what good readers do, so we're trying to instill some of those good reading habits. And make sure it starts with a question word and ends with a question mark. Okay.
You will be turning in that reading log also on Friday, so keep that in mind. I'm kind of giving you an overview for the week as far as Fever goes. You have other things that you'll be doing, but the book Fever 1793 will be finished. You'll be taking a test on Friday, and you'll be turning in that reading log. So make sure you spend this week getting caught up on that if you're behind.
Yes. Something else, please make sure that you're reading your library book. You're going to have another letter this week. So make sure that you are keeping up with your reading log, because you will be writing about your current library book this week. Again, letters will be every week.
Yes, and it'll be tomorrow. We try to have it every Wednesday. Uh-huh. And we'll be reposting that video that we made last week.
Yes.
So you can watch it again.
Yes.
And we'll post a Google Doc for you to type it and turn it in.
Okay. All right. So today, kind of shifting gears a little bit, in 7th grade, you guys take 2 STAR tests. You take a writing STAR test and you take a reading STAR test for language arts. So you take a total of 3. Sorry, I don't know what's that. Total of 3. You'll take math. You'll take language arts, but in language arts you have 2. A reading, like you've been taking since the 3rd grade, if you've been in Texas, and you will take a writing STAR test. You took this in 4th grade, you take it in 7th grade, and you take it again in high school. So a little bit of a challenge for 7th grade is trying to keep strategies straight for reading versus writing. The writing test consists of 2 parts. You're going to write an essay for one part. The second part, you will be completing a multiple choice section that is revising and editing. So you will read a student's paper, and then you will have questions about how to make it better. That means that you're looking for capitalization errors, punctuation errors. There could be spelling errors. There could be run-on sentences that they want you to make better. But they tell you what sentences that these errors are in. So that's a good thing. You can also use a dictionary on the writing section, whether you're writing your essay or you are doing the revising and editing section. So today we are going to practice revising and editing. You actually have a CBA that you're going to be taking next week that's going to be a revising and editing CBA. We only take this twice a year. So we're trying to help prepare you. The letter writing that you guys are doing every week help you for the essay part of the writing test. The revising and editing section, what we're about to practice, this will help you for that section. Mm-hmm. Okay. So on your Google Classroom, you will be given, it looks like this. These are strategies for revising and editing. They're different than reading strategies. Please keep that in mind. That's where 7th graders always get a little bit confused, and we understand why. Mm-hmm. You don't want to do reading strategies on a revising and editing because you're wasting your time, and we don't want you to waste your time. Okay, it takes a lot of energy and a lot of brain power to get through these, and we don't want you doing the wrong ones. So if you hear us repeating this, it's just because we don't want you to do the wrong strategy. So revising and editing, there are certain strategies that you guys will be using, and Ms. Wiley just pulled those up. Okay, this will be posted on Google Classroom for you to refer to. Our kids in class that are in traditional learning, they will have this available to them as well. Once you guys do this enough and you get comfortable, you probably won't need this paper anymore, and that's the goal. But for right now, we're trying to help you guys out, and you will have that. So we're going to be working off of this paper when we're doing this. So we're going to have to take this away, and then we're going to work on the revising and editing paper. We're going to call it a paper because it's actually a student's paper. First thing you're going to notice, what makes it different than a reading passage are is that each sentence is numbered. That's a huge one to know. Oh, okay, this is revising and editing. I kind of have to put on that revising and editing cap or hat. Each sentence is numbered, and the reason why they are is because in the question section of this, they're going to refer to a sentence number, and that's the easiest way for you guys to know. Also, if you look, Ms. Wiley, we circle around those instructions. At the very top, it's going to say, read the selection, choose the best answer to each question. But notice right underneath that, there are, Ms. Wiley's going to highlight it, I think. Okay, guys, we're not able to highlight it, so make sure that you're looking. Miss Wiley has the little arrow and she's circling it. It says, Sean wrote the following paper about a family member's personal success. He wrote about a plane his uncle built. Read Sean's paper carefully and look for any corrections and improvements that he should make. When you finish reading, answer the questions that follow. There's always this part for revising and editing. It's telling you what the paper is going to be about. It's telling you whether the paper is a personal narrative or if it's an expository, okay? And soon there will be questions that you need to know the difference between a personal narrative and an expository or informational paper because they're put together a little bit different, and sometimes they're going to ask you questions based on what type of writing it is. So it is important to read that. So what we want to do is I'm going to follow, I have a copy right here just like what you have for the reading strategies. It says label the paper as a personal narrative or nonfiction. Look at the info above the title and record next to the title. So just like with the reading, we have to know what type of paper this is going to be. So if it says Sean wrote the following paper about a family member's personal success, that's a key that it is a personal narrative. Something that the student has a memory of, something he experienced, so he's sharing an experience. So right beside borrowed wings, I would write narrative, okay? All right, so the next thing on the list, it says read questions and underline important words in the question. Again, it sounds very similar to the reading, but it's going to change here in a minute. So we're going to go to the questions, and we're going to read the questions and underline keywords. And what you're going to find is that a lot of these questions sound repetitive, okay? I also want you to notice that on this side, it says revision, it says reporting category, it says revision. There is a difference between revising and editing. As a language arts teacher, I tend to use those as though they're the same thing, and they're not. We always go revising and editing, revising and editing. When you do revising and editing, but they are a little bit different. What you're going to find are the editing ones are a little bit easier because those are the ones that have spelling, punctuation errors, those type of things. The revision is going to be a little bit more involved. Okay. All right.
And it involves a lot of the meaning.
Yes. Yes.
So that's one way you can decipher the two.
Okay, so let's look at the questions, and we're going to tell you what would be highlighted. Number 1 says, what is the best way to revise sentence 18? They're always going to refer to a sentence number. That's always important. So I would underline or highlight sentence 18, and I would underline or put sentence. Go back up.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Or revise. Okay.
Yes.
Those
revise
are in sentence 18. okay?
And then you're going to want to go back up to sentence.
Yes, and I think like number 2 and number 3 can be together.
Okay.
Yes. So number 2 and number 3 on your list of what to do, you can do those at the same time. Okay, so see, number 2 says read questions and underline important words. And then number 3 says, next, underline the sentence from the question in the student's paper. You can do these at the same time or you can do them separately. It doesn't matter. Okay, we would do them at the same time in class. Okay, so we would go back to the student's paper and we would highlight sentence 18. Some students just highlight where it says 18. Some students highlight the entire sentence. We were going to tell you highlight the entire sentence. Okay, that way it sticks out in that paper and you're going to know sometimes when you read the paper in a minute, it'll help. Okay, so let's keep moving. Number 2 says, which sentence in the 5th paragraph, sentences 20 through 23, should be deleted? So that tells us that in the 5th paragraph, there's a sentence in there that does not belong, has nothing to do with what the student is writing about. So when it's asking about an entire paragraph, and it's the 5th paragraph, so that means you have to know how to count paragraphs. Okay, every time you see an indentation, like we were real big on in the letter about you indenting, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it also told you what sentence numbers. I would not highlight that entire paragraph. Okay, what I would do is off here, I would kind of, you know how teachers do that little bracket thing? I would kind of bracket to the outside and I would put question number 2 and put delete a sentence. That's what we would suggest that you do when it's asking you about an entire paragraph. Okay. Number 3, what change should be made in sentence 4? In this one, I think I told y'all. in number 2, sorry, I'm trying to go too fast. I would highlight 5th paragraph and deleted. Okay. Number 3, what change should be made in sentence 4? You're going to notice on the ones that are editing, like you can see it tells you it's editing, the questions are going to sound the same. What change should be made in sentence? Okay, so I would underline or highlight change made in sentence 4. I'm going to go back up here. I'm going to find sentence 4 and I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to go back down here. Number 4 says what change, if any, should be made in sentence 14? Change made sentence 14. I'm going to go back up here. I'm going to find sentence 14. I'm going to highlight it. I'm going to go back down to the question. Number 5, what change, if any, should be made in sentence 24? Change made sentence 24. I'm going to go back up here and I'm going to highlight sentence 24. Okay. All right. Now what we need to do, we're going to look at our paper. We're on number 4 and it says read the paper. Okay. So we're going to read the paper. It is crucial, vital, important that you guys read the student's paper because they are going to ask you questions sometimes about adding information, just like in here they asked you about deleting information. If you don't know what the paper is about, it's kind of hard to get those questions right. It also gives you a great example of either a personal narrative or an expository or informational paper that we can use in class to help you write those types of papers. Okay, so let's go back up and let's read this together. And that's all we're doing. If you notice something in those sentences that are highlighted, if you go, ooh, I know what's wrong with that, then go ahead and change it. Okay, save yourself some time later. All right, so this is a personal narrative. We will give you a heads up that in a couple of weeks, here pretty soon, I said within the next 2 weeks, you guys are going to be writing a personal narrative. So you're going to want to keep this handy because we're going to refer to this because it has pieces in there and examples that are great for you guys to know about. Okay, so personal narrative, someone's experience or memory that they've had. Last summer, Uncle Bill and Aunt Carol came to visit. They traveled on a plane that Uncle Bill built himself. The plane, which seats only 2 people, is called an ultralight because it is small. When my uncle first took me for a ride, I felt like a soaring eagle. The ride was bumpy but fun. That is called an introduction. And in a narrative, you kind of want to draw your audience in, okay? It's a hook. I think that's what we call it, a hook. All right, next paragraph. I asked Uncle Bill why he had decided to build an airplane. He told me that he had flown a plane in the Air Force. He said that he had always wanted to keep flying after retiring from the military. Building the plane was something challenging, he said. However, the plane building kit came with a huge book of instructions. I also relied on an online community of people who were building planes. They were very helpful. Everyone tried to answer each other's questions. Uncle Bill explained to me that visiting us requires a lot Uncle Bill explained to me that visiting us requires a lot of planning where it is an all-day flight. If there's something that's hard for you to read like that, there must be something kind of wrong with that. And I think number 14, sentence 14, is a highlighted one. So when you're reading it and you're stumbling, then something needs to change. It probably is some words that need to be arranged. All right, Uncle Bill has to plot his course so that he can stop several times to refuel at small local airports. However, he has to remain flexible. Weather conditions and winds can affect a trip. The trip, having been extended beyond the original plan, Uncle Bill and Aunt Carol have stayed overnight in some unexpected places. However, the unscheduled stops usually make their trips even more interesting. During the flight, Aunt Carol helps Uncle Bill stay in contact with the ground. As long as they fly under 10,000 feet, Aunt Carol has consistent cell phone reception. It's funny to hear Mom talking to Aunt Carol when they're in the air. He cannot fly above a certain altitude because the plane is so small and has fixed landing gear. Even though it took me 5 years, Uncle Bill said, building the ultralight plane is one of my biggest accomplishments. Someday, Uncle Bill will help me build my own plane. Until then, I'm on borrowed wings. So that last sentence right there would be considered the conclusion. Okay, and again, we want to keep up with this particular paper because it's a narrative, and there are parts of it that we can go back and revisit to help you when you write your own here in the next 2 weeks. Okay, all right. So what we want to do next? So we're on number 5. It says read questions. Go back to the sentences that is being asked about. Important to read the sentence in its original form. Okay, so this is what this means. Number 1 says, what is the best way to revise sentence 18? I need to go back to that sentence and read it just as it is. Okay, so sentence 18. The trip having been extended beyond the original plan, Uncle Bill and Aunt Carol have stayed overnight in some unexpected places. It doesn't sound too bad. So let's look. Okay, so again, just like with the reading, we want to start with the bottom and work our way up. But it's always important to know how that sentence is put together in its original form because sometimes they will put the same exact sentence as an answer choice and it's not, it needs to be changed.
Well, they don't put enough.
Yes.
They don't put enough of the original in. So be careful with that too.
All right, so, okay, so number 6 says start with answer choice D and go all the way through the answer choices. Be sure to plug in the new option from the answer choices. Mark why you're not choosing the answer choices and then record your answer beside. All right, so I'm going to look at D. It says the trip having been extended beyond the original plan since Uncle Bill and Aunt Carol have stayed overnight in some unexpected places.
I don't know where the verb is.
Having been extended. Wouldn't that be it?
Maybe so.
Okay, I'm going to read that one again. The trip having been extended beyond the original plan since Uncle Bill and Aunt Carol have stayed overnight in some unexpected place. That word since kind of throws me a little bit. It's not really doing, I think, the job they think it's doing, like connecting
I agree.
Or transitioning. So I'm thinking that one.
Miss Clausen are thinking out loud how you should be thinking. So
Yes.
that we're modeling what you should be doing whenever you're thinking about each answer choice.
So what we're going to do, this is how it's going to be maybe a little bit different. I'm going to hold on to D, and I'm going to compare it to C and which one is the best one, and then I'm going to have to eliminate one. Okay, so let me see what C says. The trip having been extended beyond the original plan because Uncle Bill and Aunt Carol have stayed overnight in some unexpected places. I think that one's worse. The because doesn't, it's not really telling me the reason. And there's a comma before because, and you don't do that.
Doesn't happen.
So I'm going to say C is worse than D, so I'm marking that off. So let's compare D to B. When a trip is extended beyond the original plan, Uncle Bill and Aunt Carol have stayed overnight in some unexpected places. That's better. I think it's better than D. Let's look at A. Where a trip has extended beyond the original plan, Uncle Bill and Aunt Carol have stayed overnight in some unexpected places.
The word where.
The word where, yep, throws me. Where means...
The difference between A and B is the first word, which is where and when.
Yep. And I would even look, sometimes, like Ms. Wiley said, the only difference between these two is it's one word. It's the first word, and that made all the difference. And this down here for D, now that I'm looking up there, no.
And B has what you call an introductory phrase. So when a trip has been extended beyond the original plan, comma. So you know that you can pause there, and if you took out that introductory phrase, you could still have a complete sentence. Uncle Bill and Aunt Carol have stayed overnight in some unexpected places. That sentence can stand alone. So the introductory part of that sentence starts with a whoobus, which we'll get to later.
Yes.
And that's not a complete thought, but it is an introductory clause or introductory phrase.
Yes. Okay.
And that is your answer.
B is going to be the answer. Okay. So I would circle B and write B right next to the
question number.
To the question number. So B, if you look up here, B would be written right here. So you still have to put why you're not picking these. Okay. So in D, that word since kind of throws that since. So you can circle since and put it's really not working. Okay. For C, that word because,
comma. That's
you do not put a comma before because. It does not, and I know kids are come into 7th grade doing that. You don't do that. You don't do that. And it's not, when you have the word because, there should be an event and then a reason for it.
Like a
cause and effect, and that's not there. And you could even put that. You could circle that because and say there's no cause and effect. And then A and B, I would circle where and put that doesn't, it's not where a trip has extended, it's when. Those two words.
The word extended goes with time.
Right. Okay, let's go to number 2. Which sentence in the 5th paragraph, sentences 20 through 23, should be deleted? Well, let's go back to the 5th paragraph, 20 through 23. During the flight, Aunt Carol helps Uncle Bill stay in contact with the ground. As long as they fly 10,000 feet, Aunt Carol has consistent cell phone reception. It is funny to hear Mom talking to Aunt Carol when they're in the air. He cannot fly above a certain altitude because the plane is so small and has fixed landing gear.
Okay.
So that first sentence, sentence 20, that's considered a topic sentence. Just like in your letter, everything has to connect back to that. So during the flight, they're talking about staying connected with the ground. You have to ask yourself which one of those sentences has nothing to do with staying in contact with the ground. And what sentence would that be? Which one? It would be, which one? Is it sentence 23, 22, 21, or 20?
And 20, like Ms. Claus mentioned, is the really the topic sentence, and there are other sentences that support it. So we know that 20 needs to be there. Sentence 21 is still talking about how they're staying in contact because she has cell phone reception. Sentence 22 is discussing still talking and staying in contact. 23, it doesn't mention anything about staying in contact.
Right.
So I think 23 has to be deleted because it doesn't go along with the rest of the sentences.
Right. So when you're looking and you're having to write why you're not choosing those, well, you're not choosing sentence 20, that's the topic sentence, and it gets supported. You'll find every once in a while there's going to be a topic sentence that everything that supports it doesn't, all those details that are supposed to support it don't. So someone wrote a topic sentence that needs to be revised. Everything else supports itself but doesn't support it. And so you could put sentence 20, I would put topic sentence. 21, I would put detail that supports it. 22, detail that supports it. But 23 is
not about staying in contact with the ground.
No. Okay.
Nope.
All right. Okay.
Question 3.
Question 3.
Now
this
we're
is
going to editing.
editing. These are, again, most students like the editing because they are a little bit easier. So let's look at it. It says, what change should be made in sentence 4? I'm going to go back up to sentence 4 and look at it in its original. Okay, it says, when my uncle first took me for a ride, I felt like a soaring eagle. I'm already noticing what's wrong with it now looking back at it. I've already noticed it, but let's go down.
I'll give you a hint. This is like similar to question number 1.
Yes, and we'll an awubis, and we'll talk about an awubis. Yes, awubis. That's what we said. Most of the kids like that word because it's pretty much made up, but it does help with recognizing this. All right, so it says D says change soaring to soared. Well, I'm going to go back up to sentence 4, and I'm going to change that and see what it says. When my uncle first took me for a ride, I felt like I soared eagle. Okay, there are some times with verbs,
You can just hear it.
you can hear it. Okay, so when I go back down here and I'm writing why I'm not picking that, you can say wrong tense. It's incorrect. Okay, it says change felt to feel. So I'm going to go back up here. When my uncle first took me for a ride, I feel like a soaring.
I feel like a soaring eagle.
I feel like a soaring eagle, or I felt like a soaring eagle. Verb tense is everything in revising and editing, or in editing. Sorry. See, I did that again. So you need to know what tense this is being written in. First of all, if it's a personal narrative, it's always in the past. That's an easy one. That's why it's important for you guys to know the type of writing it is. If it's a personal narrative, it has happened in the past. You can't write about the future because it hasn't happened yet.
This first sentence says last summer. That happened already in the past. And this first verb is came. That happened in the past.
And then sentence number 2. Yep, number 2, traveled. Okay, so that has to stay felt because it's in the past.
Yep.
Okay. Feel would be present. So that's not going to work.
Wrong tense. That's your reason for not choosing it.
Put wrong tense. Insert a comma after ride. When my uncle first took me for a ride, comma. We're going to tell you that grammatically you're supposed to do that because like Ms. Wiley said, that was an introductory phrase. It starts with what we're going to call an awubis. So if I walked up to you and said, when my uncle first took me for a ride, I didn't tell you anything. You're still waiting for the rest of it. And you're like, so, and tell me more. But if I said, I felt like a soaring eagle, I told you something with that one. So you have a dependent, what we're going to call a dependent clause, and we have an independent clause. They have to be connected with a comma. When that sentence starts with an awubis word, we'll talk more about those. When is one of them? You've got to.
It depends on the rest of the sentence to be there.
Yes. What you're going to notice for us from now on, when we do these revising and editing practices, there's little mini lessons that we can do, and we want you guys listening. We want you paying attention because we're going to do those every time. It seems kind of long and drawn out, but when we can do those little mini lessons with you, those help. Okay. And then it says change the lowercase u and uncle to a capital U. Well, we've worked on capitalization. Let's go back up here and see. Number 4. When my uncle, why can you not capitalize uncle?
Well, it has a pronoun in front of it. My uncle. Yes. I have an uncle. Miss Claus has an uncle. My uncle.
Right.
Your uncle.
So if I tried to change uncle if I tried to replace it with an actual name, when my Paul, my Bob, it doesn't work. It sounds ridiculous. So we cannot capitalize it. And you guys know that, and yay for you guys knowing that. So beside A where it says change the U, lowercase u and uncle to a capital U and uncle, we're going to write capital. You don't have to write out capitalization. No. It's a capitalization rule. That's all you have to put.
Okay.
All right, number 4.
So your answer is B.
Sorry.
So you'll circle B and put B up next to where it says number 3.
Yes. Okay, number 4. What change, if any, should be made in sentence 14? Let's go back to 14. Is that the one that I tripped over? Okay.
It is.
All right. Uncle Bill explained to me that visiting us requires a lot of planning where it is an all-day flight. Okay. Always go back and read it the original way it was. It says make no change. A lot of times they're going to put this, okay? be careful with that one. Every once in a while, you don't make a change, depending on what they offer you, because sometimes what they offer you as answer choices are awful, and the original one is the best one of the
so you
most
don't want to
awful.
make a change, but that's rare.
Yes. All right. It says change the hyphenated all day. They want you to take that hyphen out. Okay? They want you to take the hyphen out. You can look words up in the dictionary to see if they are hyphenated, and that's what we suggest that you do. Okay? For time's sake, we're going to tell you that it stays as a hyphen. Okay, stays as a hyphen. It wants you to change where to since. So I'm going to go back up to 14. Uncle Bill explained to me that visiting requires a lot of planning since it is an all-day flight.
That sounds better.
It does sound better. That's where not being funny, but that's where I was tripping up, was with the word where. It just didn't transition into that next part. It's just not the right word. So since, meaning kind of it continues, I like that one. Okay, but we're not finished. Change requires to requiring. This is another verb tense. Let's see. Uncle Bill explained to me that visiting us requiring a lot of planning.
It already tripped you up.
It already tripped me up. When they're wanting you to change the verb tense, guys, you're going to hear it. Those are the ones that you can hear. Yes.
I agree. So that one's not correct. So when you go down to number 4, next to A, for sure you're going to write verb tense is wrong. That's not a correct answer choice. We already told you that C should remain hyphenated, and you can look that up in the dictionary. B sounds better. The word where sounds awkward, and you could even circle the word where in B and put awkward above it, and that'd be fine.
Yes, you're going to have those every once in a while that trip you up when you first read it, and it's because it doesn't sound right. Sounds like you have to go back and read it again. So the answer is B. You're going to write B right beside number 4. All right, last one, number 5. What change, if any, should be made in sentence 24? I'm going to go to sentence 24 and read it. Even though it took me 5 years, Uncle Bill said, building the ultralight plane is one of my biggest accomplishments. I'm going to go back down here. It says D make no change. That could be true depending on what they offer. So it says change accomplishments to accomplishments. Now I want you to notice something. This is a spelling one. And what they do, they love to do this, they're going to give you the first, and with a word this long, 4, 5, maybe 6 letters are correct. That also gives you the opportunity to look it up. A lot of kids go, how am I supposed to look up a word that I don't know if I don't know how to spell it? They will give you enough of it, okay? And they did here. So what I always like to do, I like to look A, the other one starts with A. C, O, M, L, I, S, H, M. One is spelled with an E, one has an I. Mince like you eat. When you look this up in the dictionary, which you are required to do, when there is a misspelling, you have to record the page number that you found it. You're not going to find the one that has mince, M-I-N-T-S. It's going to be M-E-N-T-S. They want you to change it to the wrong spelling. So you would write out there your proof as to why you're not picking it is the page number, and that's a spelling one. Okay? All right, it wants you to change the capital B in buildings to a lowercase b in buildings. Okay? I'm going to look, even though it took me 5 years, Uncle Bill said, well, what I notice is we have quotes here. And we've talked about capitalizing with quotes. This was one that we practiced. This is a continuation. It's almost like they forgot to put who said it and they broke up the sentence. Well, it's a continuation, so you can't capitalize this B right here. Because look, it says, even though it took me 5 years, building the ultralight plane is one of my biggest accomplishments. All they did was interrupt it with who said it. If that wasn't there and it was at the end, buildings would not be capitalized. Right. Okay? So we learned this back on no red ink. I'm going to see what else they offered me, though. It says change the comma after said to a period. Now, this is a tricky one, because they want you to do that you're thinking, well, building's already capitalized, so I need to go ahead and put a period there. No, No.
Even though it took me 5 years is not a complete sentence.
No.
It's not an independent clause. It can't stand alone.
Right. So make sure that if they want you to change a comma to a period, that what's in front of it has to be a complete sentence, and it's not. Okay, so our answer is B. Okay, so I would circle B, and I would put B right here. For this one, for change a comma after said, you can put it's not a complete sentence. That's your proof right there. That's the reason why you're not changing it.
That's right.
Okay. All right. So that is how we do revising and editing. Good job, Ms. Wiley. Good job to you guys. I know it's kind of long, but that's just part of it. This is what
will benefit you.
Yes, it will benefit you. So that is revising and editing. That's how you will work that. Okay.
All right. So other than that, you read chapter 23 today.
Read your library book.
Read your library book, of course, because tomorrow you'll be writing a letter. But the main part of today's lesson was listening to and going along with Ms. Claus as she went through the strategies for revising and editing, and then read chapter 23 and record on your reading log, which will be turned in this Friday, so keep that in mind as well.
All right, and remember, you can go back and forth to the reading strategy if you need to. I know we talked about it, but
back and forth.
All right, guys, have a great Tuesday. See you later.
Talk to you later. Thank you.